event. So I'm Kate Patterson, I'm the president of MMSA. We also have some of our MSA team on the call today as well. And then Liam's the president of MUBS, and he'll introduce himself in a second. So we all hope you're going well in these tricky times. It's a really interesting time to be working from home, to be doing uni from home. I know I'm finding it really different because I'm used to being really busy. So yeah, it's definitely a big change. So I'm just going to introduce MMSA quickly and about what we do. So MMSA aims to present a range of opportunities to students studying business, marketing and management at Macquarie University. MMSA aims to encourage their members to reach full potential and make the most out of their degree while studying at university by creating a link between students, the faculty and the industry corresponding to their career objectives. We focus on three main things, so social events, professional industry events like this one, and skill workshops. I will just say during the call, everyone will be muted. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat box or message each other, and we'll go through these at the end with the Q&A session. I'll let Liam introduce himself.
All right, cool. Thanks, Kate. G'day, guys. My name's Liam. I'm the president of the Business Society for 2020. I'll give you guys just a brief overview of the Business Society. In terms of the explanation, it's actually quite similar to Kate's with MMSA. So our mission is to represent the interests of all students within the Faculty of Business and Economics. So we believe to be like the umbrella kind of business society on campus who likes to liaise with all the other different societies alongside faculty as well in terms of providing a lot of value for the business and economic students. So we used to be predominantly towards economics, and then we've kind of stretched towards all business students as we've grown into become MUBS. Yeah, so that's all I have to really say. We're known for our professional and social events, and yeah, I'll hand you guys back on to Kate. Thanks for coming.
So pretty much is this is the run through for the event. So they've got the times here. We'll aim each speaker to have 10 to 15 minutes to go through their presentation. So yeah, just save your questions to the end. We'll go through them. Write in the chat if you want. Yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead. I'm just going to introduce our four speakers. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we have Sangeeta, Joanne, Hayden and Rohan. So Sangeeta is currently working as a graduate in the consumer bank at the Westpac Group. She's in her third rotation at the moment in the Westpac retail operations team, where no 2 days are the same. She graduated from Macquarie with a Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in Marketing and HR, along with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. Sangeeta founded MMSA in 2017 to create a sense of community for students studying marketing. We have Joanna, second speaker. So Joanna is currently working as a marketing executive, project management at CBRE. She previously worked at Fairfax Media as a business development executive and sales support coordinator. Joanne graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in marketing and business information systems. She was part of the subcommittee for MMSA from the beginning of when the society started. Our third speaker is Hayden. Hayden is currently working as an analyst at Monitor Deloitte. He's a Macquarie University student ambassador, consultant at 180 Degrees Consulting and the events director at MUBS. Hayden has previously worked as an assurance intern at EY. And now last but not least at all, Rohan is currently working as a, sorry, my bad. I think I missed this one.
That one. Yeah, you're all good.
Rohan is currently working as a trading and analytics associate at Bank of Queensland. He has had 8 internships throughout his degree, mostly in finance and trading, and specialises in helping students with landing roles and resume, as well as LinkedIn optimization. He studied Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in accounting with a Bachelor of Science majoring in statistics. So I'll now hand over to the speakers and we'll go through each presentation. If anyone has questions, just write them in the chat. So I'll hand over to Sangeeta.
Hi guys, how's everyone? I hope you're all well. I know it's a bit of a weird time right now, but I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the MMSA and MUBS team for coming up with such a great initiative, and not just inviting an amazing group of panelists to speak as well, but also to everyone who's joined at this time. There are a couple of people who are a bit oh, like a bit like, oh, I have a lot of work to do, or I'm not really interested in engaging with what opportunities I have at uni at the moment, just because of everything going on. But yeah, kudos for everyone for joining. But basically, I just wanted to run through really quickly. I've prepared some slides for this, which I'm just going to share. Is that okay? Can anyone see?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I just wanted to run through how important it is to know what opportunities are kind of available to you while you're at university. There's no doubt that it is a really short period of time, and being only an undergrad about 5 months ago or 6 months ago now, it is still very fresh for me to really pass on the knowledge that I utilized in the last couple of years of my degree. So because uni is quite short, it's important to understand like what you can do whilst you're at uni, whether it's in class or whether it's with your peers or in the industry, if you're interested in applying for internships and jobs early on. But I just wanted to talk through my journey. So currently I'm a graduate at the Consumer Bank at Westpac. So the Consumer Bank is basically the heart and soul of the Westpac Group. It's the frontline area of the business. So think about branches, customers, face-to-face, home loans, credit cards, savings cards, people like us walking into the branch. That's basically what the Consumer Bank is. So it is the biggest part of the business. And I guess the reason why I applied for Westpac's Consumer Bank over like a digital and marketing grad program is because my career goals are very aligned to people and the community. So I think being at the forefront of a major bank in Australia allows me to really make an impact on our people, community and customers, basically people like us. And money is such a sensitive thing as well, especially right now. With businesses, making people redundant or people losing their jobs or businesses themselves and really going through some hardship. It's important to understand what impact you can have on the community as a bank. So the Consumer Graduate Program has 4 rotations. It runs for a year. I'm currently working in my first rotation, so that's in Westpac Retail Operations for New South Wales Metropolitan and Regional area. My next rotation will be in St. George Business Support, so that'll be in line with the State General Manager for New South Wales and Queensland. My third rotation will be in Access and Inclusion, so that's focused around helping disabled customers really interact with branches and make the most of how they're saving up or applying for home loans. So think of walking into a branch, like if you're in a wheelchair, you want your iPad to be at a correct height, you want the website to be accessible for those that are impaired visually. So it's more impactful, that one. So I'm really excited for the third one. And the last one is in product quality. It'll be more of a business analyst role and focused on remediation. So how did I get to this point in my career? I think for me, it wasn't really easy, but at the end of it all, like when I do reflect, I do remind myself of what skills I've learned. So everything I kind of talk about today will be focused on what I've gained from different pieces of experiences I've gained throughout my 5 years at uni. So just pay attention to the skills that I talk about and maybe write down what skills you think you currently have, not now, but after, but what skills you think you currently have and what you would like to improve. So I think that's the biggest thing I tried to maintain from second year. But basically, the way I got my grad role was pretty traditionally. Like I did have connections at Westpac as I worked there during 2018 as a part-time role as a associate in marketing. So I did have the contacts there, but I worked in the institutional bank and I'm currently working in the consumer bank. And as it's pretty broad, like it's really different. Right now I understand like how different things are. It's like a completely different company just because of how big the organization is. So it's skills and connections that are the most important. But specifically, starting from my degree, I studied a Bachelor of Commerce, Marketing, HR, and a Bachelor of Psychology and Arts. And one question I get asked really often when I'm meeting people at work, or if family are curious to understand what it is I'm doing, and especially in interviews, they do ask why I chose commerce and psychology together, why a business degree and a science degree. And my logic around it goes back to the fact that I want to be able to make an impact on community and the people around us as well. So I use marketing to engage customers, HR to empower employees, and psychology underpins both of this. But at the end of the day, even the skills that you gain from uni, like time management, meeting deadlines, working in group work, although we might not always agree with that one, they're all very important to take with you into work and life, in my opinion. So it's just because you're submitting an assignment every semester or sitting a final exam, like at a high level, it seems pretty repetitive, but you do develop along the way, like not always in the way that you're confident in. So you won't always know what you've actually developed or what you've learned unless you reflect on it. And a good study tip is just to, if you're dreading studying for a subject, it might be a really good idea to just put away your notes and just write down everything you know about one lecture. And you'll be surprised to see how much you actually know. And like, you can write BS and stuff if you need help elaborating, but it does work. So reflection is a really good way of thinking about what you've learned at uni and what skills you've developed as well. But yeah, basically that's my degree, and that's pretty much the fundamentals of where I want to be in my career as well. So I did really enjoy my degree. I graduated only last year, but I did not get a grad ceremony, which isn't great, but that's okay. I got my, what do we get? Like a certificate emailed to you or something, not even sent to your mail, which wasn't great. But yeah, so it was fun, but it basically sets the tone for my career. In terms of internships, I worked at the Australian Olympic Committee in my first year. That was an unpaid internship. It was about 6 months long, and I helped out with the Rio de Janeiro 2016 Olympic Games, basically with rebranding. So the Olympic Games, the AOC rebranded in 2014/2015 to prepare for the game. So I helped with the marketing of that, and also with sponsorship and event management of the games in Brazil. So that was pretty cool for me because it was a fresh corporate environment. As an intern, you felt really important, and it was just a really good way to look at what I could do with marketing. In my second last year of uni, my fourth year, I did a PACE internship at Konica Minolta, and that was part of my psychology degree. So basically what I did there was I developed a framework around how we could reward employees in the business. And it was ideally it was to get them to understand how they could achieve more. Basically I had to create a plan, or it was almost like a loyalty program type thing, but like reward schemes for the employees there. But it was more around psychology and mindset. So it was a lot less businessy than you would think. But that kind of taught me that people within organizations do need to find different ways to be engaged. Otherwise they do lose momentum. They don't feel like they need to get promoted or whatnot. But yeah, it was quite important. And teamwork and presentation skills was a huge one. We actually got to present to the CEO, which was cool. And he wasn't too scary or anything, so that was fun. I did a summer internship in my penultimate year at Mirvac. I was a sales and marketing summer intern, and basically worked with the website teams in enhancing their digital customer strategy. And then also worked alongside the development teams. We also had a lot of training around digital marketing with SEO and SEM. So I learned how to use Google Analytics as well. So that experience was awesome for my technical skills then. But other than that, work experience was also a massive highlight for me. I think it's important to not just work for money. Like for me, if I could say one thing to maybe a first year student, it would be your retail experience is really important. I got my Westpac job because of my retail experience and because I could show my customer friendly side of things. So that was important. Working at Cotton On was great. I worked at it as a digital assistant at MUBS Connect, which was a startup, a small marketing agency, and that's where I learned how to, do more of the technical digital marketing side of things. And then Westpac Institutional Bank was more the introduction to banking, what I could do with analytics and insights, how I could translate marketing into the financial industry as well. And then lastly, in my last year of uni, I worked as a marketing and workplace experiences coordinator at MUBS. And that was a full-time role, and I did part-time uni while I was there as well. So that was a good transition into the workplace because I was already familiar with full-time work. And a lot of that was around the customer experience. Extracurricular activities. So I'm sure you heard Kate said that I was the founder of MMSA, and that is true. I started up MMSA at 2017, late 2017, and basically the idea was to create a sense of community for marketing students. I think marketing students are pretty outgoing to begin with. And so I found myself in my first and second year to not be able to find many friends in marketing that were outside of class. So I asked my peers what they thought of it, and that kind of set the vision for me. I wanted to be able to help my friends become more empowered and understand what it is they can do with their degree. So yeah, that was basically the reason as to why I started that. But that taught me a skill, being leadership, that I couldn't have learned anywhere else. And I'm sure like all of the MUBS and MMSA guys, you probably feel that now, like you can't really get that skill from a part-time job or a retail job. Similarly with Macquarie Psychology Society, I went into the Psych Society before MMSA because I wanted some experience around how to manage a student society. I think for me, it was like I had zero experience in like societies and like extracurricular stuff. So I think the Psychology Society, being as it was established at the time, it was a really good way to, learn how to engage students before I started up the society, because that is a pretty big deal. And then other than that, I was a consulting director for Orbis Consulting, which is no longer a society at Macquarie as I understand. But it was basically just working with teams on real life businesses and how we could solve their issues. And then I was also a team member or participant for the Microsoft Protégé 2018 comp, EY Case Comp and Innovative Comp. So case comps are a really good way to interact with businesses and really solve real world problems whilst you're in uni. And for the Microsoft Protégé one, we actually came 5th out of 171 entries in Australia. So that was huge. Like that is something that I'll take with me throughout my entire career. So it's a really good way to put your uni knowledge and your work experience into practice straight away. I definitely recommend entering any case comps that are out there right now, and really like put logical thinking into practice, because that's something you won't be able to do in your part-time job as thoroughly as you can in a case comp. So another big part that I'll just run through really quickly is the job application and interview prep side of things. So you probably know a standard job recruitment process consists of an initial application, online assessment, a video interview, an assessment center, and a face-to-face interview. At Westpac, I had all of these except for the face-to-face interview, which was basically a part of the assessment center. But yeah, pretty self-explanatory. But I think for me, I could probably break up my experience with applying for jobs into 3 different categories. You start off with long-term prep, which is something you do over the course of your degree. So you build up experience through extracurriculars, go into part-time work, internships. that kind of stuff you build up to, you know, really build up your brand and build up your skill sets in a way that you can't really do from just going to lectures. And it's a really good way to look at how what you're learning at uni can really translate into the workplace as well. Developing technical skills would be like, you know, for example, looking at how to code or HTML, or looking at different ways of using Microsoft Excel. Something I did during my time at uni was look at Google Analytics and Google AdWords. Digital marketing courses are online and you can find them for free. So for anyone doing marketing, that's a really good way of boosting up your resume. If you can say you know how to use Google Analytics, it's very impressive to job interviewers, because they know that you don't really learn that kind of stuff during uni, not always at least. And then the big one is engage in goal setting. So ask yourself what type of role it is you want to be in after you graduate. Do you want to be helping customers? Do you want to be helping businesses? And what do you want to do? Do you want to work with numbers? Do you want to work with different types of strategy? Do you want to be able to make impacts within the organization to your broader team? Or do you want to be able to translate all of this stuff into maybe like a sustainability strategy or something? Ask yourself, because there's a lot of opportunities, and trust me, when you apply for the one that you know you want, it makes a lot of difference, and your interviewers will understand that. But yeah, short-term prep is pretty self-explanatory as well. Make sure your CV is updated to match the job that you're applying for. I did this for Westpac and they could tell. They said, it seems like you want to work at a bank. And I think preparing cover letters is kind of the same thing for that as well, for your online application. The biggest one out of the short-term prep is to reflect how you can add value to the team and how you can add value as a person. So differentiate yourself and find different ways to do this. So think about what you have that other people don't have. And then in terms of interview and assessment center prep, practice behavioral and situational interview questions, and find examples that you have in your work experience that you can actually tell the interviewers on the day. Make sure they all end in a positive outcome. A big way I try to prep for interviews is asking the 3 whys. So why is this organization the one for you? Why this role specifically? And why should you get it? So asking those 3 whys will set up half of the work that you need for an interview, in my opinion, and find your point of differentiation. What can you do that other people can't do? So just to finish up, I do have 4 pieces of advice for everyone listening. Develop relevant technical skills. So make sure if you're studying marketing, you're looking into the future and looking at digital marketing skills in your spare time. If you're looking into finance, look through what the trends are in finance. Make sure you make yourself aware of what the future looks like, because that'll be your work in a couple of years' time. So think about technical skills that are different to what you learn in uni. Make connections with your peers now. Add your friends on LinkedIn. They'll become CEO or something one day and you'll be like, oh, damn it, I didn't know this. So make sure you do become, stay close and stay in touch with your friends now, even people you meet in group work, because you never know. The third one is I've covered this one, but think ahead. So think about what kind of role you want to be in, what kind of impacts you want to make, or what kind of person you want to be, because your work is a bit like a pretty big part of your life. But at the same time, don't be all work. So if you really love traveling, go travel somewhere you never thought you'd travel before. Think about what hobbies you like to do and find different ones as well. These are all character building ideas, so they will contribute to your long-term success if it is something you're interested in. And it's fun to talk about this stuff as well. So don't shy away from anything that's non-professional. But yeah, other than that, I think the best advice I've ever gotten is don't stop learning. If you get that dream job of yours, that's not the end. If anything, it's the beginning. So always keep learning, stay strong, and at the end of it all, you'll come out getting what you want because you worked for it, right? But yeah, happy to answer any questions with you if you guys have any at the end, and add me on LinkedIn if you want to have a chat or something. But thank you.
Amazing presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sangeeta. That was really, really good.
Thank you.
So I'm going to hand over to Joanne if she's happy to share her screen.
Yeah. Give me one moment.
No worries.
Okay, thanks for having me today, guys. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I've already been introduced, but my name's Joanne. I work at CBRE as a marketing executive. Thanks for having me, everyone. And I'll just jump straight into it. So I thought I'd just tell you a bit about myself before I get into the whole advice and work experience thing. So at the end of 2018, I graduated with a commerce degree, majoring in marketing and business information systems. Surprisingly, I actually started with a psych and commerce degree, but I felt like I didn't want to pursue psychology in my career, so I just wanted to focus on the commerce stuff, which I thought was more of my strength. I really enjoy marketing and I have a passion for it, but I thought IT would help me with those technical skills that Sanjita was talking about earlier, and yeah, it really did, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, and then currently I work at CBRE as a marketing executive. I've been there for just over a year. So I work within the project management team. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of CBRE. It's a very large real estate firm. They kind of do all kind of property and construction services. So I'm in the project management division, and basically what I do is help the project management team with their pitches and tenders and presentations to clients. Any marketing, digital marketing that they need help with, I support them. Sales management, so I help them with their sales management system, Salesforce, and any thought leadership and marketing collateral and articles that they release to market, I help them with. So it's quite a diverse role, which I thoroughly enjoy. And that photo is just with the girls on one of our Friday drinks, which we do quite often, which is one of the perks. And then in my spare time, I do like to go to the gym. I like going outdoors, doing different adventures and traveling like anyone would. I think it's quite important, especially if you're in an office job, to get as much time outdoors as you can, and to let off some steam through the gym or however you enjoy it. It's quite important to have that work-life balance, especially if you're working 8+ hours each day, 5 days a week. I think it's good to keep those hobbies and to find things that you enjoy doing in your spare time. So my work experience throughout uni. So I think a couple months before I started uni, I found a contractor role. It was actually a telemarketing role for a small marketing agency called Click Marketing. So basically what they do is IT companies outsource CCM to sell their products and services. So it was a lot of cold calling. It wasn't the funnest job. However, I think any job has certain learnings and skills that you can take out of it. So it did give me confidence to deal with different types of clients and different personalities over the phone. Helped me to set and achieve goals for selling their products, and it definitely grew my communicational skills. So I was there for a couple of years, and over time I was able to be given more challenging tasks. So the company also helped those IT firms to basically plan and run their corporate events, such as conferences and seminars and roundtables. So I was able to get involved in that and basically hand out merchandise and meet new people at events and plan these events. And I was even lucky enough to fly interstate for some of these events. So yeah, it was a good job to have during uni, and I think one of my favourite things about it was the flexibility. And as important as it is to obviously gain experience as much as you can throughout uni, I think it's good to also have that flexibility whilst you can, whilst you don't have any commitments like a mortgage or a family or anything like that. So it was really cool because as I was a contractor, I was able to take off time for uni exams, or if I wanted to go travelling, I can take a few weeks off. So that was that job. And then going on to the next one, I felt like a bit of a change. So I joined this, probably my first corporate role at ESV Accounting and Business Advisors. So I was a marketing and admin assistant there, and so I loved working there, enjoyed the people that worked there. There was a lot of young people in that firm. Though I felt like there wasn't much of a challenge there, and the tasks were quite minimal, and there wasn't much growth opportunity there. So I was probably only there for a few months. So probably my key takeaway from this job was that you shouldn't be afraid to ask the interviewer questions during an interview. So I think it's just as important for you to fall in love with a job as it is for the employer to love you, because you're going to be spending so much time and effort into that job. So it's important that you join a company and role that reflects who you are, not just for the pay. So my next role was at Fairfax Media as a sales support coordinator. So this was a pretty cool job. Fairfax Media owns major publications like the Sydney Morning Herald and Financial Review and The Age. So I wanted to see what it would be like to work in sales, which is why I got into this. I think it's quite important to jump into a diverse, like different kind of roles throughout uni to see what you like and what you don't like. So yes, I think because my dad works in sales, so I thought it'd be quite interesting, and I got to support the advertising sales team on different print and digital ads, as well as make some low-level sales myself, which was cool. So I worked hard there, and I was actually promoted to a business development executive for a self-service advertising platform called Align, so people can actually post their ads themselves without having to contact us. So basically, the girl that had worked on Ad Online had left the company, and the sales support coordinator role wasn't really needed anymore. So I ended up landing that new role, which was good timing for me. So it was quite enjoyable. It was a kind of a technical role because I was working on an online platform, so I had to constantly update it, and there was also a bit of sales in there. So I definitely learned quite a few things at that role. But as print advertising had declined, there wasn't much workload in my team to go around. But I did enjoy learning about the different things that Fairfax did and finding out about all the different ads and news stories there. And I did enjoy the view at Piedmont, which was nice. So quite an interesting fact, a few weeks before I left Fairfax to join my graduate position, the company was actually sold to 9 Networks. So there's no longer a Fairfax Media, it's all Channel 9 that owns all those publications now. So it's quite interesting. So probably my key takeaway from that role there was it's good to experiment, as I said earlier, with different roles if you can during uni. It allows you to get exposed into different industries, different departments, and different types of tasks, basically to broaden your knowledge and help you understand what you enjoy, that you're full graduate, you go where you want to go. You have some sort of idea. I'm not saying you will know exactly what you want, but it gives you a clearer vision. I think events is a good place to start. Even if you don't want to work near events, or if you don't enjoy it, it really teaches you key skills such as communication skills. It teaches you to be highly organised. It teaches you to work under pressure and be able to respond to different problems that might come up, because no matter how much you plan an event, things always go wrong. So it really teaches you to, solve problems on the spot. I also learnt that I think it's personally, in my opinion, I think that it's quite important to, if you can, try to land a job or an internship or a summer gig at a reputable company or like a big organisation that people know of. It really adds that extra, sparkle to your resume. And it also, I think no matter what your role is there, it kind of shows to the employer that you've worked at this large corporation who have proper procedures and in place, and that it shows that you've worked at a place that isn't easy to work at. It's not just some little firm. So I think if you can find an internship at a company, like Fairfax or like one of those 4 major banks, I think that's quite beneficial for your resume. What else can I say? I think, and I think also if you join a company and it's in a role that you wouldn't really, it's not in the field that you're interested in, there's always opportunity to grow there. And if you impress them and sweep them off your feet, you might be able to change teams or change roles there. So I think that's another reason I believe that it's important. So yeah, that's my experience. Extracurricular activities. So I was involved in MMSA from when Sanjita started it, which was quite fun. So she grew that association, and it was really cool to meet like-minded people who I stay in touch with to this day. And I think it's good to be involved with these kind of things, because there's always events like this one, and you know, there's resume building events and all sorts of different fun things that I think you can't go wrong in joining. I also thoroughly enjoy volunteer services, so I think personally it's quite important to, where you have the time, to volunteer yourselves for different things. So I'll you know, blood donations, charity walks, I help feed the homeless, or whatever it is. It's not only a good thing to do, but it actually feels good, and it actually makes you quite happy and feel accomplished, like you're actually giving back to someone else, and you're doing something useful. So I think that's quite important, and I try to do what I can in my spare time to help others. And this is just a little quote I popped in here that I made up yesterday. So life is too short to be stuck in something that you don't enjoy. So I think, you know, it's important to find a good job and to gain experience throughout uni, but I think if you're not happy, then it's just not worth it. Like, I think you know, a lot of us are young, or there's a lot of opportunities out there, and we live in a good country where there's always opportunities, no matter what. So I think it's important to make sure that you keep that in the back of your mind, that you know, don't do something for the sake of doing it. And then I'll just give you a few job tips to finish off. So for resumes, my main tips for that one would be, I have my resume on Canva, so I think I'd recommend jumping on there if you haven't put one together, if you want to explore different options. They have really cool templates which you can use, and it's easy to use, and it's a free platform. So that's one tip. Another tip I'd say is when you're listing out your role within each company, I would say instead of listing out what your tasks were, I would twist it to show what your achievements were in that position. So for example, you know, instead of saying I manage this sales platform, I would say I transferred, you know, 50% of sales onto this platform. You know, turn it into a way that you're actually showing that you benefit that company and you provided actual advantage to that position, and that you contributed to the company. So I think that's quite important wherever you can. I know that some roles you can't really say much on achievements, but I think it makes a difference to how your resume stands out compared to other candidates. With applications, so a lot of my jobs I applied online, traditionally through Seek or Indeed or LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's quite important, and I wouldn't underestimate its importance. I found a couple of jobs through LinkedIn, and I think it's quite important to make sure that your bio is good and that your jobs are all up to date on LinkedIn and you have a nice sharp photo. And I think it's good to stay active on LinkedIn and, you know, comment on posts. Basically, you know, if you can, find different interesting articles or events that you've been part of, get involved on posting on LinkedIn. You know, this builds up your connections, and you can't go wrong with, staying active. I also was one of those people that applied everywhere and anywhere. So I would go onto company websites that I admired and just see if they have jobs. And I do that every couple months. So I think that's a good tip to have. In terms of interviews, I think for interviews, it's important to read up on their company values and see which ones you relate to. And I think during an interview, if you bring up the company's values or their objectives or something you've seen on their website, that'll probably sweep them off their feet. And it also shows that there's a good cultural fit between you and the company. So I think that's a beneficial thing to do. I'd also say to ask questions to the interviewer. So it is okay to throw a question or two back at them. And it also shows that you're keen and you're passionate and you're really confident. So, you know, for example, you can ask them, something I've asked before is, from this role, has anyone progressed into higher positions, as I'm interested in joining a company which supports growth? So that's just one simple thing that shows that you're really keen on growing in the company and excelling there. Yeah, and if you're confused about anything the interviewer says, just be honest, straight up. They prefer honesty than a person that just, sits there with a blank face. Yeah, so I think that's everything I have to say, and I do welcome questions. I've also included my email and LinkedIn there. Feel free to reach out to me if you have anything afterwards that you think of. I'm always happy to help you out with your application process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanne. That was a really good presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was really good. So we're going to move on to our third speaker now. So we've got Hayden, if Hayden's happy.
Sweet. Hey guys, we'll get my screen up for you all. Okay, can everyone see that now?
Yeah.
All right,
coming
cool.
up now.
Let's go in present mode. All right, so just before I get stuck in, I'll do a quick brief on who I am and what I do. So I'm Hayden. I studied a Bachelor of Business Leadership and Commerce at Macquarie. Bit of a funky title for a degree. It no longer exists, unfortunately. But essentially, it's essentially a commerce degree with a couple of sort of management leadership units included. If you have any more questions, you can ask Liam Gilroy. I'll delegate to him on that one because he's still in it. But yeah, really enjoyed that at Macquarie, and then I am currently an analyst at Monitor Deloitte. So Deloitte, obviously a professional services firm, and Deloitte acquired a company called Monitor, which was founded by Michael Porter, if you know Porter's Five Forces, and essentially it's a strategy consulting firm that was acquired. So we're the strategy arm for Deloitte. So what is strategy? It's a bit of a airy-fairy term, but hopefully I can break that down for you guys today. Essentially, my talk is going to focus on what I do, what the industry is that I work in, and kind of a bit about my uni experience and how I kind of got there. So they're going to be my key focuses today. So looking at my role at Monitor Deloitte. So Monitor Deloitte, we help to solve business leaders' most strategic problems. No day is the same. So strategy is a bit of a weird term, but essentially it's all about, comes down to the choices that businesses make from a range of different levels. So we tend to work specifically with CEOs of companies or heads of business units. So the difference there, for example, is you might work with CEO of Coles to help them understand their whole business strategy, what they want to do in the future as a CEO level. But then at a business unit level, you might have working with the head of, say, fresh fruit and vegetables at Coles. So these sort of managers, one oversees a whole company, and that's called corporate strategy. And then at the business unit level, they look at their business unit strategy. So what is their specific strategy for fruit and vegetables? So essentially, companies have a range of different strategies. There'll be an overarching one, but each independent sort of business unit will have their own little strategies that all should theoretically link up to the top. That's how the good companies prosper. But in terms of what sort of industries we work across, so I've been lucky enough to have a range of different client experiences at the moment, which I think is one of the benefits of being on the professional services side, working for Deloitte, that is. So I've worked across, did a bit of work with sort of SBS, I've done some stuff with Sydney Water, and also Schneider Electric, done some work at ANZ, have done a bit of work with a non-for-profit organisation called Clean Up Australia. I think you guys might know Clean Up Australia Day, so we did a pro bono thing for them. There's a range of different stuff within health with different hospitals that want to improve efficiency, and we operate across a broad amount of different industries and businesses, and I've been pretty lucky to have a few different experiences so far, and I'll talk you through those a little bit in a second. But essentially, this little pretty cascade thing we have here is essentially our bread and butter as consultants. So this is called the cascade of choices. Write that down and never forget it. It's essentially, we take businesses through this process of answering some of these key questions to help form their strategy. And this is how the majority of companies and strategy consulting firms look at strategy, because it was this framework was formed out of a bunch of Harvard Business School people that made up some sick thing that everyone loved, and yeah, they patented this approach, and a lot of the companies took it on board. But essentially, first thing you start off with is looking at what are your visions and aspirations as a company. And I like to use an example to go through the cascade for like an ice cream company. Let's say as an ice cream company, we want to make 10 million in revenue or profit, say, each year. We want to be known for having the most exotic flavors that our customers love, and it's just an awesome experience. So, you know, how you see those vision statements that Nike and Starbucks and all those companies set up. So we start off with looking at who they want to be and what they want to be known for. Those little stars is you might do like a little workshop with them, and you come up with some ideas. Some people might say, no, we want to just do generic flavors, just do vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. Whereas the other, another person in the business, like, no, we're definitely doing popcorn, we're definitely doing Vegemite ice cream, and we kind of help mediate that process and help people agree on where they want to go. So usually those workshops are with executives. And then from there, we say, all right, cool, we agree on a vision. We agree on some of the financial and non-financial and sort of purpose-based metrics that they want to look at. So where will we play? So this is the customers, segments, geographies, and the value chain that they operate in. So it's the ice cream company. We go, all right, we're going to be Australia and New Zealand. We're going to focus on just key coastal cities because it's hotter there and people want more ice cream. And we want to target, say, 15 to 35-year-olds because they like these fun flavors. Yeah, cool. Then the next one is like, how will we win in that market? So how will we be the best company? What is our value proposition to the customers? And so their value proposition is to have the most exotic flavors. We want to have that Vegemite flavor that everyone loves. We want people to like come to us and think, nah, I'm going to these guys. I'm not just having a Buffalo Bill because I want the exotic flavors, right? And then from there, they need to enable that. They need to look at what capabilities do we need to actually achieve that. What are some of the things that we need to have in place? So we need to have the best ingredients. We need to source from, these really exotic farms in New Zealand, these special cows that produce awesome milk. We need the highest level machinery, which is built by Ferrari for ice creams, right? And so looking at what are the key enabling things that help support that. And then from there, we will lay out a kind of a plan in which they can go about and do this. So say, for example, if they need to go get new machinery, we don't just go, well, obviously, that's okay, cool, we need to do that. How do we do that? Okay, so you guys, next steps is you need to contact this, company in bloody Italy or whatever, negotiate a term, hire this many machines, and like it's an actual a work package that people can then go off and do. So we don't actually go and do the implementation. That's what that's called. When you actually go and implement the strategy, make all those things happen. We do that high level stuff on where do you want to be, what are the things you need to do, and then you kind of send that off, and then they go and run it. So so this sounds very, very appealing right now, doesn't it? Oh, yes, great. So Hayden, what do you actually do on your day-to-day basis? Well, as a grad, I take meeting notes and I collect papers from Officeworks. Occasionally, not all the time. But you got to earn your stripes. But I also get to do some really cool things. So I've looked at the market size of professional services for conduct, which is based on the financial the Royal Commission into financial services. So looking at what is the size of the market there, who was impacted by the Royal Commission. I've also done some stuff looking at what are some new growth opportunities for Clean Up Australia. So that was helping them to understand where are things they can unlock new volunteers. So looking at sort of growth matrix, looking at transformational growth, adjacent and core growth. I've also looked at trends, so looking at how these macro trends in the market are going to affect the company. I've also looked at a range of competitors, what they're doing, done analysis on that to work out what are some of the things that's going on in the market that we can learn from, or we can ensure that we are the most valuable company. And then I've also done presentations in workshops with executives. So I've had a range of different experiences so far. Definitely on the professional services side, it's there's ups and downs for sure, as with any job. I think professional services as well. It's not a standard sort of 9 to 5 sort of job. So if that's what you're looking for in this specific role in the strategy team, but you get to have a range of different experiences, and everyone's really supportive. There's a great culture. We work hard, but we also, play hard as well. And yeah, it's a great team environment. But I think the biggest thing when you're starting off as a grad is making sure that you feel supported and there's a team around you, because there's a lot of stuff you don't know. It's very easy in uni group assignments to feel like you're all just a bunch of big dogs and we're smashing it. We know what we're on about because everyone's at a similar level. But when you get into the workforce, you're working with people with 20 years experience, 10 years experience, and I'm fresh out of uni. I don't even know how to hold my pencil correctly. So it's that it kind of forms a sense of what they call imposter syndrome, which is saying, "Oh, I deserve to be here." But it's this kind of this feeling that is quite common with grads. But essentially, it's just because it's different in uni. You don't actually get to work with people with high amounts of experience, and everyone's at a similar level. So it's great to have this learning opportunity where you get to work with people that have awesome experience. And you get to grow every day. Sometimes that growth can be uncomfortable, and that's why there's highs and lows of the job. But overall, if you feel like you've got a good team, it definitely helps you get through it. So in terms of why I chose this and my personal career journey. Well, first of all, I would encourage you guys to not just kind of look at what your passions are or have been through uni, or looking at the last couple of subjects you like. Essentially, you are a sum of all your experiences throughout your life, and this will shape your passions and things that interest you in terms of a career. So I usually say one's personal career journey doesn't start after university, it started when you were born. So there's a picture of me as a little fetus, and what influenced me in terms of where I was born and how I was born. Well, I was born in Sydney, so that obviously gives me some opportunity, affects the level of opportunities that I have. I was also born as an only child, so I always loved being around people. So I love the people aspect, which is something that influences me. And from there in school, there I am getting stuck into some chocolate cake. And what I love in primary school, I love sports. I had a real big passion for team sports, and I also liked public speaking. So kind of that kind of influenced a couple of my decisions. And at high school, I really enjoyed sort of economics, and also had a little bit of a punk band that we did. So I liked music and sort of the production side of things. So that really interests me. And then I got to uni, and I did a range of different things. So I did a philosophy course that I really liked. Would highly recommend. It's a base unit. I don't know if you guys still do all that stuff, but it's awesome. I did 180 degrees consulting, which I really liked. I worked as a student ambassador for Macquarie. So we went to different schools and pitched why they should go to Macquarie. So again, that public speaking thing, I followed that passion. Also, it was hitting up the events of MUBS with Liam. So I liked, again, that mentoring aspect of it. Also, coming up with cool ideas, new ways to gain more members. And I also did exchange to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, which was a bit of a rogue place, but it was awesome. What did I learn there? A lot of partying. That was fun. But I also learned I really enjoy. We did a couple of units on sort of cross-cultural communication, so I liked having that different cultural aspect. I also did an exchange to National University of Singapore, which was an entrepreneurial exchange program, which was awesome. Learned that I really liked thinking of new ways of growing businesses. And I also did some stuff with Conviction Group, so that was helping mentoring young adults with through mental health. So that was really interesting. But essentially, those experiences kind of really helped me realize a couple of key things why I chose Deloitte so far. So one is the horse is I kind of like this idea of strategic thinking. So coming from that philosophy background, that sort of what I was doing at Singapore in terms of entrepreneurship stuff, I really like thinking about being creative and looking at new ways we can approach things. The second one, I've got a little media icon, so I'm what I'm quite passionate about at Deloitte at the moment is trying to get more involved in this sort of media space that we have. Because looking back at some of my experiences, I really enjoy music, and I like the production and theatre side of stuff, and combining that with sort of my business passions. Then the little people, so I love being in a team environment. I don't really, I like having a collaborative team rather than just sitting behind a computer and pumping out stuff that other roles might involve. And I think that's kind of influenced from me being an only child and, loving sort of public speaking, being around people. And then also a little time icon there. So as you can see in my uni experience, I did a fair bit. I like being busy, and Deloitte's definitely a high-paced environment. So I wanted to challenge myself there. But then I was reflecting when I built this slide. A lot of this is just based on positives that I like. It doesn't quite work like this. You don't just go, oh yeah, I like that, and you find what you want. I think Joanne mentioned it before that you also learn a lot of things from the things you don't like. And probably one of the biggest things I didn't put up here was that I did a internship at EY in audits, and that's sort of an accounting role. And it was a great experience. I learned that I liked going to see different businesses, and we got to do the accounting for a range of different businesses there. I like being in a team environment, but for me, accounting wasn't creative enough or strategic enough, and I wanted that extra element. So that really was a massive factor helping me go to Deloitte, but I wouldn't have got there if I didn't try a bunch of different things. So I'd encourage you to really try and expand your comfort zone, experience a range of different things, but or just reflect really on what are some of your passions and how has that linked up throughout since you were a kid, because it all kind of really comes back to it's a bit of nature and nurture, which is a bit of a psychological thing. And so I think that will help you guys help understand where you might go, what you're passionate about. So just it's about internally reflecting quite heavily. So next one, in terms of what you can do for getting into a place like Deloitte. So these are the ways in which we kind of engage with students. So in the first year, you can do a thing called the Deloitte Insider Program. So you get to, once you apply to that, you can kind of shadow a team. It helps you with a couple of professional tips. And then if they kind of like you and they like your vibe, you can get a potential offer to a summer vacation program. So summer vacation program, so by the way, how you read this year, you've got the 3-year, 4-year, 5-year degree. So I'm just going with the 3-1 for now because that covers everything. But second year, so that's your penultimate year, you can do summer vacation program. So you come into Deloitte for about 3 months. You get to actually work as part of the team on real projects to understand what it's like. And it gives you a chance to also obtain a grad role if you are well there. And then in the third year or your last year after you finish, you can apply or just before you finish, sorry, you can apply for a grad program. So for example, I applied for the Deloitte Grad Program in March 20, what is it? I applied in March, and then the next March, in 2019, I got my offer. So you typically do it a year in advance. So you got to look out for those early, but all the dates and stuff are on the website. But these are kind of things that really I would encourage you to do early. A lot of people leave it kind of last minute because obviously you want to enjoy uni, hit up UBAR, spend a bit of time there, But it's important to have some of those early little taste test experiences throughout your degree, because it is quite a big decision. Like once you leave the uni bubble, it's completely different, right? You're working every single day, whereas uni is a bit more chill, a bit more flexible. So you really want to try and make sure it counts and it's something that you're quite passionate about. So I'll definitely recommend investing in going to these things, which is great for all of you that came on here, going to some other networking events, learn from what people do, research stuff online. Obviously, you don't have to do this every day, but like looking at some of the key milestones can help you, can help motivate you to do that. So the summer vacation program, I didn't do the first one. I did summer vacation, and then I looked at grad program stuff. So those are the typical ones, and there's times in which they open up, which is quite similar across all industries, typically at the start of the year. So I'd encourage you guys to get a little gang together with mates and help them work together to kind of go through these and motivate each other. So Yeah, I hope that was helpful, guys. So I'll stop sharing now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that was another really good presentation. I think all of you guys have had very different experiences and have all said some really valuable points as well. So we've got our fourth speaker, which is Rohan. So I think we're going to
Yep. So can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. So Rachel's sharing my screen. Rachel will probably just tell you when to change slides. Might be a bit annoying, but I think it's the only way that can work. All right, cool. Sorry, 2 secs. Okay, yeah, so good afternoon, guys. My name's Rohan. I graduated last year from Macquarie with a Bachelor of Commerce, major in accounting, and a Bachelor of Science with a major in statistics. And I'm here to share with you some of my tips and tricks into landing jobs and internships. So a bit about myself. I come from an Indian background. Both my parents were born in India, but moved here at a pretty early age, and I've lived here in Sydney my whole life. I've traveled to over 30 different countries. I was lucky enough to go on a fair few holidays when I was younger, as well as do a lot of my own traveling after I turned 18. There are two achievements I'm quite proud of in my life. The first is my completion of 8 different internships during my time at uni. This included 2 which were in Dubai and 6 which were in Sydney, as well as 3 diverse jobs. The second achievement is having competed on season 3 of the Channel 9 television show Australian Ninja Warrior. I'll go into more detail about these a bit later on. And currently I'm working as a trading and analytics associate with the Bank of Queensland. Just next slide, please, Rach. Cool. Yep, so here's just a few of the photos from Ninja Warrior. It was hands down the coolest experience of my life. And I'll go into a bit more detail later on as to why I'm bringing this up. I'm not just trying to brag or show off anything. But the next slide, please, Rach. Yep. So my internship story. So I was never really a studious or high achiever or academic or anything like that. I was just kind of went for credits and occasional distinctions where I thought I could, and just kind of get by on not too much effort. That was kind of my personality. But right before the end of my 3rd year of uni of my 5-year degree, I had a bit of a reality check after a conversation with my mum, and I realized, how am I going to get a job with nothing relevant to my degree on my resume? I can't work at Fitness First for the rest of my life, which is the part-time job I was doing throughout uni. So at the end of that year, I planned a trip to Europe with a friend of mine, and my mum actually suggested that I shorten that Europe trip and try messaging this family friend of ours who lives in Dubai, who's quite up in the banking and finance world. Who's quite high up in banking and finance, and asked if it was possible to spend some time at her firm, or if she had any colleagues in Dubai who may be able to let me get some experience in the office just for a couple of weeks or so. That little message ended up working out really well, and I was actually able to do both. I was able to spend time at that family friend's firm, as well as at her colleagues in the finance and accounting department. So both were very elementary level internships, but I learned some useful skills, and more importantly, I got 2 experiences on my resume, as well as overseas work experience too, which is valuable. So within just a couple of months, I now had 3 reputable internships on my resume for when I came back to Australia. My first one was actually a accounting internship I landed through my dad, but again, I'll explain that a bit later on too. So basically, when I came back to Australia with those 3 things on my resume, I started applying simply for everywhere, everything. I was even interviewing at firms that I literally had no intention of joining, purely for the sake of learning how the recruitment process worked, and also to develop my interview skills as much as possible, learning what kinds of questions are asked most, what curveballs they can throw in an interview, what responses do and don't work, et cetera, et cetera. So after about 200 applications, lots of successes, lots of failures, I ended up accepting both ANZ and Bloomberg as my 2 summer internships. I was very lucky and fortunate to be able to do 2 internships over summer. Usually you can only do 1 because they all overlap, but because I landed a few, I was actually able to pick and choose to an extent, and I chose ANZ and Bloomberg because ANZ went from November to January and Bloomberg went from January to March. So it ended up working out perfectly. So it was a very, very busy summer for me. I was working full-time that entire time, but ended up being very useful nonetheless. Next slide, please, Rach. Cool. So just taking things back to last year. So I finished the Bloomberg internship in early March, and I was about to start my 5th and final year of uni. I had one goal in mind, and that was to get as many solid things on my resume as possible before I graduated. So I was starting to almost get addicted to the whole idea of landing an internship or a job offer. You know, it became my pastime hobby. It became so fun, satisfying, addictive, just getting job offer after job offer. You know, it was almost like predicting the stock market. You know, you already know which places you have a chance at, which places, you know, you think you will get based on your knowledge of the company, the recruitment processes, your interview ability, things like that. So it was honestly the best feeling ever. And, you know, I was spending more time looking at what new jobs were being posted on Seek and LinkedIn. You know, I was spending more time on that than I actually was on Facebook and Instagram. It generally became my new pastime hobby, which I got, you know, enjoyment out of. So later on that year, I ended up completing 2 more internships, one of them which was in trading. And I enjoyed that so much that that's what I decided was the career path that I wanted to take. You know, I then managed to land a job with Bank of Queensland, with who I am with today. You know, they were the one company during that year who was flexible and kind enough to sort of let me start part-time in August and work part-time until I graduated in November and then go full-time afterwards. So I've been full-time with them since December last year. I'm still extremely passionate about landing jobs and offers, but, you know, obviously I can't keep applying to places since I now have a full-time job, which I do enjoy. So instead I've developed a passion for helping uni students like you guys to, you know, get the best of your application processes and, you know, try and land the best internships that you can. So, yep, thanks, Rach. In terms of my top internship tips for you guys, there's quite a lot that I can think of, but these are definitely the top 4, which I'll try and explain in some depth. So firstly, especially at the beginning, when you don't have much relevant work experience, I definitely say to leverage your friend and family connections as much as possible. My very first internship ever, as I sort of mentioned before, was 2 weeks shadowing my dad's accountant. You know, it was very basic work, obviously unpaid, but I learned some useful things. And most importantly, I got an accounting internship on my resume when I was studying accounting. I literally just asked my dad, hey, you know, do you happen to know any accountants or friends or even your own accountant who, you know, you can ask on my behalf if there's any chance I can just shadow them for 2 weeks? And it worked out perfectly. So, you know, and then afterwards, as I mentioned, I used my family friend in Dubai to land 2 finance type internships while I was there. And all of a sudden there's 3 relevant internships on my resume, which immediately puts me ahead of a lot of the competition. And it also gives me some leverage and work experience to talk about when I'm writing an email, you know, an email application or a cover letter, you know, for a more legitimate or paid internship. Secondly, I'd say be willing to do unpaid work if you can afford to. The reason I say if you can afford to is because I understand not everyone's in the same boat. I was lucky enough to be living at home throughout my entire degree and not have any big costs like rent, electricity, food, or anything like that. I was also working at Fitness First part-time and had some decent pocket money coming in. So I could definitely afford to do unpaid work if it meant I could get something solid on my resume for it. I definitely recommend doing it now in the beginning, like, you know, while you're early in your uni degree, while you can afford to, as these are the things that give you the bonus points you need later on to get the paid internships. They also demonstrate that you've got, you know, dedication and a strong work ethic, because, you know, not many people are bothered or willing to do unpaid work. Thirdly, don't be afraid of rejection. Apply everywhere to everything. It's honestly insane the number of people I've spoken to who said that their main reason for not applying to their dream job or company is because they're worried that they'll get rejected or they have, you know, no chance of getting in. My response to that is, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. In this day and age, we definitely take for granted how easy it is to reach out to employers from any company. You know, the power and ease of LinkedIn, Seek, Indeed, all those websites, they make it so easy and so unbelievably easy to apply to hundreds of places in literally the shortest amount of time. You know, the same goes with emailing. It's so easy to type up, you know, a basic email and just send it to multiple hiring managers. It's as simple as introducing yourself, what you're looking for, you know, why you're interested in their company specifically, and if they're willing to meet with you and have a quick phone call. The outcomes can only be yes or no, and if it's no, who cares? There's literally nothing you have to lose. It's purely a 2-minute, you know, attempt from your computer. You know, you're not even having any face-to-face embarrassment or anything like that if you do happen to get rejected. But in this whole process, you'll gain confidence, positive feedback, negative feedback, and most importantly, you'll get the opportunity to make every future application you do slightly better. I said it once and I'll say it again: apply everywhere and do not be afraid of getting rejected. Finally, do as many internships as possible. A lot of people don't agree with me on this one, as, you know, they think 8 internships is too much unnecessarily, which is fair. I do get that. I do see where they're coming from. But my reasoning is that, for me personally, it took me my 7th internship to realize that that's what I liked and that's what I wanted to do for my career. Additionally, you gain confidence, you get a resume so good that it puts you ahead of the crowd to the point where you'll literally get a phone call within 30 minutes of applying for the job, asking to come in for an interview. The other main point about this, which a lot of people don't see or don't realize, is what employers and hiring managers, how they actually see it. When you look at when they look at your resume and they see that you have 5 or 6 or whatever amount of internships and jobs, one thing that pops into their head is, okay, this guy's landed 8 internships. This means that he's passed 8 different application processes and impressed 8 other hiring managers enough to be offered a job. If he's managed to do this 8 times, there must be something interesting about him. I want to meet this guy. If he can impress all those other interviewers, I'm sure he can impress me as well. So I want to meet him. You know what I mean? So it just generally gives your application a lot more power, a lot more strength. And as well as that, there's no harm in meeting new people and gaining more experience and, essentially just developing your resume even more. Thank you, Rach. All right, so I'll try and speed things up a little bit here, but with interview tips, the #1 bit of advice I can give is to see the interview in the eyes of your interviewer or employer. Everyone purely focuses on things like, I need to wear my best suit and arrive, half an hour early and do research about the company and all that, which is all necessary and true, but people forget to think about what the employer is actually looking for more than anything else. And so by no means, does the employer expect you to know everything, but they want to be able to see that you'll essentially be their most convenient hire, because human beings are lazy, right? So these employers are willing to train you up, but they don't want to have to start from absolute zero. You want to convey to them, in your interview that you're a quick learner. That's the main thing. So one line that I like to say in a lot of my interviews, which normally goes really well, is this. I say, I pride myself on my ability to learn new things quickly. This is evidenced through the blah, blah internship, where I had to learn this entire system in 2 days for reasons X, Y, and Z. You also want to show that you already know the products and services that the business has to offer. You want them to know that you know what systems they use from the research you did, and how you've already done some courses or research into that software. For example, becoming very good at Microsoft Excel, so they don't have to train you on that. They expect that you know it well and that you can kind of get straight into work, if the task requires using Microsoft Excel. Also, if they see you as a fun, social person who they won't have to spend forever training, you'll instantly be at the top of their list. Just be a convenient hire for them. Next, I'm sure you guys have all heard the saying that character is judged in the first 10 seconds of meeting someone. Let me tell you that this is true, 100%. The first 10 seconds of being your interviewer, and when they ask you to introduce yourself, these are the most important 10 seconds of the whole interview, in my opinion. I recommend memorizing an introduction, which can display your character immediately. You want to sound loud and clear and confident, and even throw in a light joke in there to show them that you have like some kind of sense of humor. My example of this is, when I introduce myself, I say that I come from an Indian background. It's not just a nice tan. You know what I mean? It's sort of a light joke. It's not even necessarily funny, but it sort of breaks the ice and releases a bit of initial tension. And it kind of just shows that you've got a bit of personality as well. Also, make sure you're well prepared for all the common interview questions, like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? What do you know about our company? Tell us about a time you worked well in a team, and so on. These questions will always come up in every interview, and you need to have examples and stories to be able to talk about times where you demonstrated this in various circumstances. Essentially, just don't be a know-it-all nerd, and nor should you ever be overconfident and cocky. You essentially need to sell and market yourself as the person who can do the job, who won't need to be handheld through the training, and also someone who can have good office banter and be fun to have a drink with after work. That's all they want. That's the prime employee and the prime kind of person you want to sell yourself as in these interviews. Next slide, please, Rach. Yeah. Okay, so this is the last slide. I know I've rambled on for a little while, but some final important tips. Make sure your resume is dot point formatted, clear, concise, and to the point. You don't want your resume to have paragraphs for each job that you've done about what you did. The employers just kind of want a general idea of what company it was, what type of role it was, the key things you did, and the key skills you gained. You want these main points to kind of pop out to them, if you know that the employer is only going to scan your resume for 2 seconds. Secondly, I think you guys might find this fact interesting if you don't know already. Hold your excitement when you get an invite to complete an online assessment. So, you have to know that no human being has actually seen your resume at this point. So it's not necessarily an achievement to have reached that, online assessment stage, nor will any human actually look at your resume until you get called for a face-to-face interview. A lot of people don't know this. So the way it works is basically when you do your initial application, where you enter your personal details, upload your resume, verify your working rights in Australia, and so on, it's sort of written in a, like a JavaScript code for the company, whether or not you will receive an online assessment link. For example, like if the job says, it can only accept those who have working rights in Australia, and it asks you that question, it's got a yes or no drop down, and you click a no in the box where it asks, for your Australian working rights, then it's written in that code automatically to send you an email in 24 hours with a rejection letter. You know what I mean? Same thing as, if say you fail to upload your resume, or, you enter some kind of incorrect detail, which goes against the basic initial requirements of the company, you'll get that rejection email. Whereas if you enter every detail fine, enter everything correctly, have the correct working rights, upload all your documents in the right places, it will automatically be in that code, to take you to the next step of the process and email you the link within 24 hours or whatever it may be. So these companies want to minimize the number of resumes that they have to look at. And that's why they put all these initial processes in place to start with. Cool. Again, learn how to use Seek and LinkedIn. The other guys have sort of touched on that briefly as well. Once you've set, all your LinkedIn and Seek settings up correctly, it literally takes 15 seconds to do an application. And you can also filter your job searches, to the most specific thing and check every day to see, the jobs that pop up which match that criteria. Okay, the other point is definitely have one fun or different or exciting thing on your resume to show off a bit of personality. My thing for this was Australian Ninja Warrior, as mentioned before, and that's why I brought it up. It came up for me in every interview that I did. They always asked about it. Talking about it was like a less serious note, and also an exciting out of work activity. And, talking about that, just having something which, not their average candidate would be able to talk about definitely helped me out. So I'd say try and put something like that on your resume if you can, whatever it may be. Even if you're, good at cooking, for example, talk about that and add some random fact, like, you once baked 3 cakes in an hour, or some kind of fun fact, which, you can play around with. Whatever it is, you can even exaggerate it slightly if need be. Just, make sure you're able to bring out some personality in your resume. Finally, I'd say have a buddy to do all these applications with. It always helps to have people to talk about the applications with, help each other out with your resumes, notify of when new jobs have come up and so on. Just make sure that you guys are working together and not against each other. All right, just wrapping it up now. Yep, I won't go into too much more detail, but definitely get sales experience if you can, and emphasize that in interviews that you've had proper sales experience. Because every company you work for, every product or service generates revenue by selling the product or service. So if you understand things like lead generation, a customer needs analysis, closing a sale over the phone or face to face, these skills are highly favorable and highly regarded by all employers. Definitely use LinkedIn to your advantage. We're lucky enough to have the ability to stalk the profiles of people who have our dream jobs and see what work experience they've done in the past to get to where they are today. You can even connect with them and message them asking for how to make your application stand out. Never be afraid to connect with someone and send them a message. Generally, people are always happy to help. But again, if they don't reply, nothing to lose. You shot your shot, and nothing happens. So don't worry about it. Finally, just as I said before, just be a convenient human. Be that easiest hire. Make the job easy for the recruiters and interviewers. For example, if you've recently applied to a bunch of jobs, there'll likely be unrecognized phone numbers from the companies calling you to talk about your application. So when you answer the phone for an unrecognized number, don't just say hello. Say to them, hello, Rohan speaking. So they know that they're speaking to the correct person. They don't need to waste 10 seconds in making sure they're talking to the right person about the right thing. Just simple things like that make you more of a convenient human being to them. So just try and think about those things in your application and when you're talking to people. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you for listening. Hope you guys all got something out of that, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Rohan.
No worries.
Thank you.
4 speakers, you guys all had really good presentations and all gave us some really valuable points. We're going to go through Q&A session now, but we'll just say, just because we have gone over time a little bit, we do have this call set up till 6 o'clock, but we understand if some of you don't want to stay around till then, but we can if we have to. I just thought as well, before we start the Q&A, if everyone's happy, I know people probably at home and they could be in their pajamas or anything like something, but if we all put on our cameras and just take a quick photo.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I reckon we should do that before the Q&A, if everyone's happy to do that.
And for those who are going to take photos of this, like LinkedIn and that,
Lost someone.
The gallery view. If you just click that, yeah, we might start losing people pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But if you click the gallery view, you're able to see everyone now, and people might be slowly leaving. Please stay.
Yeah.
But if you guys are going to like take a photo, then that works out very well.
Yeah. All right. I'll just take a quick photo now. I'll just do 3, 2, 1. Yeah. All right. It should be good.
Beauty. Well done.
So I'll let you. I'll hand over to you, Liam.
All right. Cool. Well, I think Netra has been waiting very patiently for a question. I think this was primarily directed at Sanjita. So if you wanted to go ahead and answer that question. So is the graduate program available for international students, or are there internship opportunities available?
I had a quick look at this just to be sure of my answer during the other guys' presentations, but unfortunately, just because from a banking perspective, you do need to be an Australian citizen or a permanent resident to apply. But that's not all. I'm pretty sure Westpac has many partners in terms of outsourced employers. I know one of them as Hatch. So Hatch is a outsourced employer for major companies, and they partner up with big corporations to make sure that uni students get an opportunity to apply for roles that aren't internships, that are proper roles within companies. So I actually got my first Westpac role in 2018 through Hatch as an associate in the institutional bank. So I would recommend, if you can't go through the company portal, have a look at those outsourced employers. But as far as I'm aware, it's only open to those that have a PR and an Australian citizen, just because of the nature of security that banking just needs. But that doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. Have a look at Hatch. It's a really good website. Really good portal. You meet so many people, and you get to do jobs that you would do 4 years after uni whilst you're still at uni. But yeah.
Awesome. All right, so Hayden is going to have to pop off at 5:30, so I might get you just to have a really quick answer to the next question that we've got, which is where did you in particular find your internships?
I would say probably Rowan's the king of this question, but I'll answer and he can add. But I think Grad Connection was one that I used. I just applied to kind of all the major companies, so all of them typically have internship programs. So EY, Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, then strategy consulting firms, BCG, McKinsey, Bain. I think, how did I know about them? I think as well, using some of the knowledge of different companies from people in different societies, or even asking your lecturers is valuable, because it's just like Rowan said, these days you can kind of just email these companies and HR reps, really, if they don't have any programs. So it's more about knowing knowing the names of the companies, and I think just obviously through common knowledge, websites, and also just lecturers and friends, just ask as many people as you can and apply. It's a numbers game for sure, so just apply for as many as you can.
Yeah, easy. Thank you for answering that. And yeah, thank you for coming along, Hayden. Hopefully you enjoyed your experience there. And yeah, thank you for giving a really good presentation. I really personally enjoyed it. And obviously I'm a mate with you, so that made it even better.
Yeah, you have to say that because you're my mate. So. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I have to drop off for a meeting at 5:30. But hope you all had an enjoyable call, and cheers for the societies for setting this up. And yeah, definitely I learned something as well. So thanks everyone for having me, and crack on with your questions.
Easy.
Thank you so much, Hayden.
All right, Marcus, another good mate of mine. So the question is directed to Rohan. You mentioned that you were never studious and didn't try too hard academically at uni. How would you rate the importance of grades alone when compared to extensive experience when you had to apply for jobs?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think there's a few factors with that. One, with it definitely depends on the job. Like when I was new to all of the applications and things like that, for example, what I'd heard from people was, if you're doing finance and, accounting and those kind of subjects, then the best thing to go for is investment banking. And that's, probably the most competitive industry out there. And, everyone goes for it because it pays ridiculous amounts of money. But the people who apply for those are all the, 99 ATAR and high distinction WAM people from, UNSW and UCID and, the kind of people who just spend their whole life studying, they definitely get the priority with that. And I sort of realized fairly quickly that, I wasn't able to compete with those people in terms of, those investment banking applications. So, quickly upon realization of that, I started researching into what other internships were on offer, what other, companies were willing to take me on. And then a lot of the times it does say, that they want like a credit average minimum, or sometimes they don't specify things at all. But I think on a general basis, as long as you've got around a credit average, you're fine to go most places. But also because I knew that I wasn't too studious or academic, that was another big motivation for me to kind of strengthen my resume, by getting as many internships as possible, so that can kind of cover up my academic achievement, so that, or not cover up, but that they look at my experience more than anything else. If I wanted to, I could even use an excuse that in an interview, if someone asked me, how come you didn't have a distinction average, for example, I would say, I spent a lot of my years at uni kind of focusing more on work experience and getting, the practical skills necessary to do a job rather than, studying my butt off for high distinctions. And a lot of interviewers and employers do take that on board and do respect that. But as long as you can kind of show your social skills, your ability to do the job well, sell a product if you need to, and just, as I said before, be a convenient hire for them. A lot of the times grades don't matter too much. I would say overall experience is definitely worth more than grades.
Cool. So in terms of directing from that, you got another question, Rohan, Mr. Popular here. So where did you find the majority of your internships?
So the first three that I mentioned, those were through family. So the first one was an accounting internship that I asked my dad if he knew anyone who could set me up with. So that worked out well. The next two were through that family friend in Dubai. Then after that, my fourth internship, which was a 9-month unpaid internship at a Scarlett Partners. That was a cold email that I did. I just, looked at the company, found it online as, a popular wealth management company in the city. I sort of looked at quite a few of them, sent that same email out, outlining who I am, what I'm looking for, that kind of stuff. And they were the one company which were willing to say yes. So that was really good. That was my main introduction to finance and everything like that. And it was kind of good because from there, every internship that I did kind of flowed onto the next one. For example, you guys may not be too familiar with Bloomberg, but it's like a, financial technology. It's essentially this prestigious software for finance professionals, which has like every kind of financial data you can imagine. And so when I was at the Scarlett Partners, we actually had a Bloomberg terminal. It cost like $40,000 a year. It's something ridiculous. And so I got experience using the Bloomberg terminal while I was at the Scala. And so then when I applied to Bloomberg, having already had proper Bloomberg experience, that definitely helped out in my application a lot too. Bloomberg and ANZ I applied for both online. I just searched at what are some of the main internships and summer internships and graduate positions being advertised. They all kind of come out around the same time of year. And that's how I was able to get Bloomberg and ANZ. And funny enough, with ANZ, I didn't talk about this in my presentation, but networking is very important. And one thing I did at ANZ was one person who I met while I was at ANZ happened to be leaving the company in 2 weeks. And then, I had a coffee catch up with him, asked him about his job, all that kind of stuff. And then about a month later or 2 months later, he sent me a message on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm working at this new firm and we're looking for an intern. If you're free, would you like to come intern with us? So that's something that happened really naturally, really nicely. It was very satisfying when that happened. And from then on, I just kept looking to see what was available. I just, every single day I was looking at what was on Seek, what was on LinkedIn. I was typing into Google, finance internships for Sydney students, things like that. And whatever would come up, I would apply for. And yeah, what I would get, I'd take if I could. Otherwise, I'd just cop the rejection and not give it, not care at all.
Awesome. That's a really good answer to that kind of question. Our next question is from Rachel, and it's to Joanne. So how did you feel working at a company? How did you find working from a company that everyone knows, like Fairfax, and transitioning into a company that lets people know about, like CBRE? Do you find they work differently? So it's very much a work culture based question.
Actually, surprisingly, obviously, I think Fairfax is more well known within Australia. It's an Australian company, but CBRE is the largest real estate firm in the world. So it's actually a bigger company. They're based in LA and they have offices everywhere across the world. So I think every company is different. So obviously they work differently, and it takes, I think working for a global company, it takes a good 3 months, if not more, to actually figure out where you sit in the company, because it's so large and people don't really explain it to you quite well at the start, so you're a bit confused and there's so many people and it's just overwhelming. So I found that with CBRE. Fairfax is actually smaller, but it's still a big company, so it takes a lot of time to adjust. And I think you just got to be patient with yourself, and you got to realize that they don't expect you to know everything from the start, and they understand that, if you're first starting in that industry, or if you're first starting in your first graduate role, it's your first time, and they don't expect you to know everything and learn everything quickly. So I think give yourself patience and time to adjust. I found that the culture at CBRE is much better. I don't know, I find that in the construction industry, everyone's just so laid back. So I quite enjoy it much more than the media industry. And I found, where I started in the team I was in, a lot of their advertisements were in print, so it wasn't, there wasn't as much action, I guess, whereas in construction, it's still an essential service, so things haven't stopped. But yeah, I just found that I was more interested in this, industry. So it kind of depends on the person, but in any big company, I'd say, yeah, it does take a lot of time to adjust to it and to kind of learn all the different teams and all the different services they provide. So I hope that answers your question. If not, then let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, if I can make like a bit of an addition onto that as well. Working in the construction industry, doing construction consulting, where I'm currently at, clients are very much more laid back, and it's just a whole different dynamic than for the previous experiences I've had with construction.
And I think culture makes a big difference. And just to add on, I know this question wasn't directed at me, but about the marks, I wasn't really much of a high achiever at uni either, but I think in any industry you join or any job role you go for, I think it's way more important to have good communication skills. So I think during uni, learning those presentation skills was so important, and I didn't realise until I started in my job, because you're going to end up having to present at one point or another. So I think it's quite important to force yourself to learn how to communicate and how to articulate yourself and how to understand how different personalities and behaviours work, so you can talk to people and get them to understand you and you understand them. Because if you present yourself well in an interview, I think that overrides everything else on a resume.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah. All right, next question from Dan. So this is for Sanjita. What kind of technical skills do you recommend for marketing students?
Very good question. I got to my maybe like 4th year of uni, and I was like, oh my God, like the only thing I know about marketing are I don't even know if it's the 5 or 4 Ps. Is it 5 Ps or 4 Ps? 4 Ps? 4 Ps. Far out. You won't, like, it's good to know, but no manager will come up to you and say, oh, do you remember what the 4 Ps were? Like, no one will say that. And I think it's actually 7 Ps. Anyway, technical skills is a really big one for marketing, because every single company is trying to adopt them. For me, I focused on Adobe Creative Suite, and I went through tutorials on the internet to learn how to use InDesign, Photoshop, and Lightroom. Not that I'm very good at photography, but when you know how to use like well-known software that everyone knows of, if you have a section on your resume that says technical skills and you have Adobe Creative Suite and you're applying for a marketing job, that really, like, it tracks really well. Like every employer will know what you're talking about. Another big one for me was Excel. So when I was in uni, I think I did one unit only that taught me how to use Excel. And that was just basic formulas. And I knew how to Control C and Control V, but I think with marketing, there's a lot of stuff around analytics that not many people realize until they start going into the workforce. So I would recommend every month learn a new Excel skill. And once you start using Excel, you start to understand that Google is a really good tool for Excel. If you're a beginner at Excel, you don't actually know what to Google for. But I studied marketing. A lot of my units were in marketing. Now I'm at Westpac, not doing marketing, but I can still take Excel with me. It's just more of an, you'll find yourself opening up a spreadsheet, a blank Excel spreadsheet to do like a really quick calculation over your phone calculator, just because you trust it a bit more. But definitely Excel is a really good one for any role that you go into. The other big one is, does anyone know who Salesforce is?
Yeah.
Salesforce is huge, and they've grown like in the last 3 years, like exponentially. They have this learning and development online like tool. I think it's called Trailblazers, but I've been doing them during isolation. They're really cool. But basically, you're a trailhead, and you do different modules, and they are actually certifications as well. So they're things that you can print out or like have listed on your resume. If you're in marketing, customer relationship management, CRM, what Salesforce is primarily known for is huge. And it's something that every company is trying to get as well. So if you come into a job interview and they see that you already have the skills they're trying to teach their team, that is really good for you. And also they're really fun to do as well. You get to learn how to code, you get to learn how to have fake customers and how to treat those fake customers and everything. They also have a lot of mindset modules as well, like how to lead a team or how to communicate better. So get onto Salesforce Trailblazer because it's actually quite fun. But other than that, YouTube is always there for you. YouTube's pretty good with that as well. Think of your Google digital marketing as well. Think of Google Analytics. If you're into data, that's also really good. But marketing technical skills is something that every company is looking for right now if you're trying to get into like a marketing customer experience type of role.
Fantastic. I think in terms of what you've shown there is a lot to do with adaptability, which comes into one of the questions that I was going to ask actually. Obviously, a lot of people in this who are listening to you guys either we're close to graduating or we're, still we feel a little stuck at home in terms of the different work experience opportunities that lie out there. If you were to give like one piece of advice, this is addressed to all of you, so any of you guys can answer. One piece of advice for kind of adaptability in like trying to like handle the climate that we're in, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say apply everywhere. As I said, like especially now, well, as I said, we've got access to everything. Just do not be afraid to just shoot out 300 applications in a day, kind of thing. Even if they're pointless, even if they're companies that you prefer, I don't know, they wouldn't be at the top of your preference list. Just apply anyway and just get the offers. Learn about how the process works. The more you learn, then the easier the applications actually become. As I said, for every rejection you get, you generally do learn something about how to make your next application slightly better. And the more times you can do that, then, think about it. If you apply to 200 places and, you get rejected by, you only need like a tiny success rate to actually get that job or get multiple offers. So apply everywhere. The more places you offer, the more chances you have of actually getting something. especially now more than ever. Just go crazy with it.
Oh, awesome.
I was going to say, it's a good opportunity for us right now, I guess. I don't know if you've guys seen, but Qantas made all of their grads redundant. Like, what the heck? So adaptability is a huge thing right now. If you do, like, even I'm scared, if you do something, if you get into a role and then 2 months later, just because of the economy or something that's out of control, you're out of a job, it's good to just have those skills backed up. Look at your past experiences for when you are applying for those jobs and like literally exaggerate what you've learned during that time. So one thing I did before I applied for Westpac the first time around was I had my Cotton On retail experience, my unpaid internship at the Olympic Games, and then I had the experience at digital marketing agency. I was like, okay, I did all this stuff. It was all junior level. What did I learn from this that would translate well for the company I'm applying for? And like literally exaggerate what you did. Use numbers, make sure all your achievements are like quantifiable, and use this time now where you're not at uni, you don't have to travel to uni, you've got that extra time. Literally reflect to yourself. What did I learn? And what did I learn that makes me different from other people? And use your group assignments to your advantage in interviews as well. If you were a leader in a group assignment, or if you thought you acted as a leader in a group assignment, say it. Like, don't be scared. Like, even if you did someone's work for them, just phrase it in a way that makes it look like you guided them onto being successful and you helped the group get a good mark. Like, use your uni experience and use the experience you have already, because right now, if you apply for a job tomorrow, you won't get it next week. There are many hiring freezes going on right now, so make sure you stock up on your technical skills. Watch a video. You don't have to write anything down or study. Watch a video about how to use Adobe Creative Suite or something, and just back yourself. It's fine. It's all good. But it is weird times and everyone is struggling, so don't take it too personally. You don't have to have a HD average or anything. Just make sure you are emphasizing what you already have.
Oh, awesome.
Following off what Sanjita said, there's a couple of things that I wanted to add. Probably, yeah, when you have some downtime, just grow your skills. Salesforce, it was used in the Fairfax and CBRE as like a big CRM tool. It takes up a lot of my role. Learn about how to use Salesforce so you can write it on your resume, understands and is confident at Salesforce. It's a big thing to have. When you're applying for jobs, I think go look at the dot points they include in the role or what's required. Add that to your resume. So if they say they want someone that does that, okay, unless it's something very technical that you can't lie about, add it to your resume. So that way it's like matches, because when they're ticking their boxes, they can see that you cover all bases and you're the perfect candidate. One more thing, yeah, don't be afraid to, I guess, reach out to people on LinkedIn, make connections with people that you think, you know, I'd like to be like where they're at in 5 years, connect with them, follow them on LinkedIn, like their, you know, posts. If you can make posts yourself, that's even better. So just stay active online, because everyone's online obviously now. But yeah, that's my tips.
Cool. Well, I think that was a really good Q&A session. Thank you all for really contributing very substantially to those. I'm not too sure if we'll see any more questions come through, but Kate, if you just wanted to quickly wrap it up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for all joining today. Thank you so much to our speakers for taking out the time in your day and also your work schedules as well. Yeah, we just like really appreciate the effort you guys put into your presentations. They were like really insightful. And thank you to everyone that joined the call as well. I think we all got some really interesting points, and I've been taking notes as well for things that I want to learn and yeah, work on my skills. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. If anyone had anything they wanted to say, just jump in. You can unmute yourself.
Happy for anyone to contact me after. Now that we've got some downtime with isolation and everything, I'm happy to like set up a call or something if you are thinking of applying for a job, or if you're thinking of applying at Westpac. happy to help coach resumes or cover letters and whatnot. So yeah, don't be shy.
Awesome. Make sure, guys, just a personal tip, if you are going to approach these beautiful speakers on LinkedIn, make sure you give them a message that you've actually come to this event. So it'll give of a communication thing that you've actually listened to what they've said and that you're really keen to contribute and ask their assistance. Cool. Well, I think that's about it. We'll hopefully have this all on YouTube. In terms of, so if you guys want to watch it again, want to watch one of the particular speakers' presentations, it should be up there, and we'll give some of the main points and we'll post those as well. Yeah.
And just, I was going to say a big thank you to you guys as well for organising this and putting in all this work and effort, and thank you to Rachel as well, who asked me to come along personally. So very, very thankful for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I'm very happy to help, and it feels good to talk to people that I spoke to in uni. It's always nice to catch up. And I hope you found our tips worthwhile.
Oh.
Go MMSA.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm just going to say go MUBS because I'm the only one.
Go MUBS too. I love MUBS.
All the other MUBS execs who I can see, join in. All right, I think we'll end it there. Again, thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, guys.